Hi there. My name is Allison. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Jessica.
Jessica, it's very nice to meet you. What brings you here today?
This is really hard for me. I don't know. So I've just been struggling with a lot lately. Like, I have a 2-year-old, and my mom is not really very supportive. Um, she didn't want me to have the baby, but like she's always told us that she doesn't believe in abortion. So what was I supposed to do? I didn't want to disappoint her, but I don't know. I'm just struggling being a parent right now.
So I can imagine that must be really difficult. It sounds as though you're struggling right now with sort of gaining acceptance from your mother and getting validation in regards to your choices. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, mostly.
And what does acceptance and approval from your mother mean to you? Where does that come from? Or can you think of a time in your childhood where maybe that began, where you developed the need to feel accepted and to feel approval?
Well, it's hard. I'm the oldest, so I feel like it's kind of always been on me, to succeed and be kind of the leader. I have like 3 younger siblings, so my youngest sibling's only a year older than my daughter, so it's kind of I am reminded of that every single day, both by the fact that we live together and by my mom, who reminds me that it's just, I guess I guess I've never really felt like anything I do is good enough, no matter how hard I work or how good I do in school. You know, it's just nothing's good enough.
Can you think about a time in your life where, or remember a time where it did feel good enough, where you did feel a sense of accomplishment and you felt like another person in your life recognized that?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a really good student. I get straight A's in school for the most part. The last year or two, it's been a little tougher, because of having my daughter. But, I don't like to use it as an excuse. But I guess growing up, like, I used to win spelling bees all the time, and I went to a national spelling bee, and I remember my mom and my dad, they were both really proud of me. And after, even though I didn't win the national one, um, they were both really proud of me, and I could tell they were proud. They were happy. That's the last time I really remember. They were proud of me a lot before that too. It was kind of like when I got into like my high school years, like the last 2 years. That's when they haven't been as accepting of me.
And looking back at that, what did that pride look like? Can you remember sort of maybe a statement that was made, or maybe just like an overall kind of maybe even like a mannerism or a facial expression or something? Can you just remember if you could put a sort of a face on that pride that you're describing, what would you be able to describe that?
Yeah, just let me think about it for
Sure.
a minute, because it's kind of like a long time ago.
Absolutely.
Okay. Um, well, they always used to like not let me eat a lot of sweets and stuff, and I remember they took me out for ice cream after a lot of the spelling bee stuff, and they would both just say, like, you amaze me, like they'd say like, we're so proud of you, like, my mom would say, you amaze me, I don't know how you do this, I couldn't spell any of these words, as an adult, and you're only 12 and you're 13 and you're doing this. They would always tell me how much I had to look forward to, and how proud they were, and I guess, yeah, it's funny you mentioned the facial expression thing. I don't know how to put a finger on it, but like I could tell they were proud. Like
Sense it.
when we were all out together as a family and we'd run into somebody, or when we'd be like at a family gathering, I could just see they were proud that I'm their daughter.
And what does that mean to you? Or what did that mean to you when you were experiencing their pride?
A lot. I mean, doesn't everybody want their parents to be proud of them?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of great, really useful information there. Tell me a little bit more about your family. I know that we touched a little bit upon in the beginning the relationship with your mother. Can you tell me a little bit more about the relationship with your father?
So my dad's a police officer, and he used to coach softball for me, and he is really strict, really strict. And like I was definitely a daddy's girl when I was a little kid, but I'm definitely not as much anymore. Especially, it like started to not be that way when I was like 13 or 14 maybe, and then.
And do you remember the point in which it stopped being that way? Was there an event or a specific situation that sort of ignited that loss in that relationship?
No, I've like tried to think about it over and over because it's just so different now. You know, like I try to think about it all the time because I miss that relationship, that closeness, but I feel like maybe it sounds stupid, but like as soon as I started to be less of a girl and more of a woman, maybe, if that makes any sense, like physically. I don't know, I mean, things just changed over time. It wasn't like this big thing happened, you know. Obviously though, like getting pregnant, like, you know, that caused some problems, but it was before that he had pulled away from me. So.
And how did that feel when he pulled away? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Made me pretty devastated. I've always tried so hard to please them and meet their expectations and like do what they want, you know, which is for me to be successful and go to college and you know, it just felt awful because I know that, you know, I want so badly to make them proud, and to have my dad just like not really want to be involved as much and not be around for me, doesn't seem to be proud of me anymore or anything I do, and doesn't take an interest. It hurts.
That must be really difficult.
He'll put all his time and energy into my daughter, you know, which is great. He's a great grandfather to her, but like sometimes I wonder if the same thing's just going to happen with her and with my younger sister. Like if he's, you know, if it's like, oh, you're 13, well now you're not interesting to me anymore. Like that's what it felt like. It felt like it was not sudden, but like right when I was a teenager, you know? Like I didn't change that much. Like I was still interested in the same things, you know? It's not like I went boy crazy. It's just I still wanted to do softball and wanted him to coach my teams and stuff, but he just didn't anymore.
So it sounds like you're feeling as though, you know, as you went through changes in your life, you know, as you got older, maybe you developed new interests, things changed. That's when the relationship started to change. As you were changing, the relationship changed. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah.
Now tell me a little bit more. We touched upon how, you know, you stated that you always tried to make your parents proud. And what did that feel like for you to sort of accomplish these things and be successful. What did that mean to you, separate from what that meant to your parents?
Honestly, it's like hard to think about it separate from my parents because, do you know, like, I feel like I've always just tried to do what my parents want me to do. You know what I mean? Like, I have my own interests. I've always been like, I learned to read when I was 2 and I learned to write when I was 3, and so I've always just been really into expressing myself through writing and things like that. You know, I wanted to do that for me. Like, I love it, you know, and I still do. But everything I've ever gotten into or interested in independently, like, I don't know. Can you ask the question again? I worry that I'm not, like,
No, not at all.
answering it right, you know?
No, everything you're saying is, there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, everything that you're saying is very valuable and useful to me and to you to sort of get you to a place that you want to be. So I guess my question was, you know, because you were stating how, you know, your parents were so proud of you at one point, and I just sort of wanted to know how you felt, like what, you know, how you felt about the things that you were doing, and if you felt a sense of accomplishment for yourself, and what sort of that looked like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, like, my self-esteem isn't that great sometimes, so it's, I mean, I'm not, like, the most confident person. So I guess for me, when I do things, like when I do really well in school, or like, I just got into college, and that, like, that stuff, it makes me feel good, because I know that I didn't have help with that, you know, like, no one expected me to get into college or go to college at all after, you know, having my daughter, so it's like, I feel like I have some strength, like I can beat the odds, you know? So, and also, like, even before I had her, I guess, kind of like, I don't know if it makes sense, but like, I feel like I've had like a secret pride, you know, like when I do something, it's like, I'm not like outwardly like proud of myself, but like in bed at night, I just think, you know what, like, I'm a good person, and that I'll do something with myself someday, and someday make a difference for someone else, I guess.
That's great.
I feel good about myself sometimes.
That's great. And how often would you say that you kind of feel this way about yourself internally? You feel that internal sense of pride? Does it happen, you know, sort of immediately after you kind of are engaging in something that's giving you pride, or is it just sort of a thought that kind of comes to you at random?
More after I do something that kind of makes me feel that feeling.
Mm-hmm. And what kinds of things are those?
Let me think. Like lately, it's been being a good mom, and balancing school, because that's obviously, like, that's really hard. You know, I'm still on track to graduate, which no one thought I could do. And so just sometimes when like a little like thing will come up, like in my fall semester, like I hadn't gotten all A's for a year and a half, and I finally got all A's again. And so, I mean, I didn't get head grades, but, you know, I had B's. And so now it's like, I was able to prove to myself I could do that. And I just felt really happy. I felt like,
You were proud of yourself.
yeah.
And it sounds like, you know, it gave you kind of a validation that, you know, here you are, obviously, you're in a position in which you're raising a child, and from what you're telling me, it sounds like you're invested in that, and you're doing a great job, in addition to the fact that you're also, you know, excelling in school, and that's a really, really difficult task for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
you have every reason to be proud of that. Now, can you think of a time, it doesn't necessarily need to be a family member, but can you think of a recent situation in which someone um, was recognizing those accomplishments and expressed that to you?
Recent? Like how recent?
Maybe within the last few months.
Yeah, my mom, like, and my little brother. My little brother looks up to me a lot. My sister, not so much.
Tell me a little bit more about that, about the way that your brother looks up to you.
Well, he's 10.
And he's the youngest?
Yeah. I was in 2nd grade when he was born. Oh, he's not the youngest, I'm sorry. No, he's my youngest brother, but, he always just kind of, I don't know why, but we've always had kind of a bond. Like, he's really, like, I guess, school smart, book smart, too. And, so I'd always read to him and, like, teach him how to read, and, just kind of, like, we bond over kind of nerdy stuff, like nerdy games, like computer games that we play, and, like, for a while after I had my daughter, I got really depressed, and, like, I just felt like I couldn't do anything, and this one time, he just kind of, like, crawled up next to me, up onto my lap, and he said, "I need to tell you a secret," and I said, "What? What's the secret?" And I had no idea what he was going to say, and he just whispered in my ear, "I love you," and I said, "I love you too," and he said, "I have another secret." I said, "What's that?" And he whispered in my other ear, he said, "You're the best sister in the world." And he says stuff like that all the time, but that really stuck out to me as special, because it was a hard day I had had. Our dad was yelling at me a lot, and
Sounds like that's just what you needed to hear in that moment.
Yeah, I was.
It's a great memory. And how often are you able to spend time with your younger brother? How often do you see him?
A little less lately, because he's starting to play, like, pee-wee, like football and stuff. So he's at practice a lot. And my dad's kind of, like, coaching him and stuff too, which is cool. And he's coaching my sister's softball now. She's 12. I don't know, maybe, like, on the weekends sometimes we'll have time together, like Sunday night usually, because usually all weekend he's, like, doing pee-wee stuff or whatever, you know, but, like, Sunday nights we'll spend time together as a family most of the time.
Tell me a little bit more about the relationship with your younger sister.
Well, she's almost 13. I said she's 12, but she'll be 13 next week. I'm like, I think of it and I kind of, like, dread it, you know, because my dad pays a lot of attention to her now, but I feel like maybe he'll just do the same thing to her he did to me, not be close with her anymore. We were really close for a while. She's different. She's, like, different than me. She's really boy crazy kind of already, and, like, very, like, feminine. I'm more of a tomboy. And she's, like, I feel like she used to look up to me.
And what did that look like when she looked up to you? How did you know?
Oh God, she would, like, try and steal my clothes even though they're a million sizes too big. She's such a little freaking pest. Like, I'd be putting makeup on and she'd just be, like, in my room, like, stealing my makeup and stuff, and, like, she was, like, 7 or 8 and, like, too young to be wearing makeup, and just She wanted to be like me until I got pregnant.
So from what I'm hearing, sort of the way that that statement ended, it sounds like you're saying that the relationship has changed, and did you imply there that that she's disappointed, or that she's, what does that mean right there?
That's a good question, I guess. I don't know. She has to, like, we live in a pretty small town, so maybe, like, I don't know where she, obviously, like, my parents are disappointed in me, and, I know no one wants their kid to have a kid when they're a teenager. But, like, my little sister, like, she's kinda like, I feel like my parents do try to not say negative stuff, but maybe use me as, like, a bad example, but maybe I just shut that out, because she, like, will say things sometimes, like, I don't wanna, like, she won't say it directly from my parents, but she'll say things that, like, would be weird for, like, a 12-year-old to say, you know what I mean? Like, she'll be like, things are so much tougher for somebody when they have, like, she'll say things that, like, I don't understand, like, where she would get that, you know what I mean? And then I know once she told me that people from school, like, her friends or whatever, were, like, making fun of the fact that I had a kid. And, that hurt, because she shouldn't have to have any problems because of my decision.
And I heard you say a couple of minutes ago, you made a statement about how you expressed sort of a concern that, or a worry that your father was at some point, now that your sister's getting a little bit older, is going to, start not providing as much attention and sort of emulate that relationship that he had with you. Does that worry you about your sister?
Of course, yeah, it definitely worries me. I want my sister to not have to go through what I've been through. Like, I mean, it's fine that my dad, like, stopped being as interested in me. Like, I'll deal, I can live with it. I have way more important things to do now than worry about that. But when I think of my sister, like, I guess I feel protective in a way. Like, I don't want her to have to feel what I've had to feel all this time.
That's really compelling. It sounds like you're definitely, at this point right now, and I wouldn't say that you're more invested in their relationship than you are with your relationship with your father, but it definitely seems like you would rather suffer, in a sense, rather than have to see your sister suffer and sort of go through the same things that you went through. So it sounds like stability, your father's relationship and your sister's relationship, for that to have stability and for that to have, for that to include love and respect and closeness, that means a lot to you.
Yeah, it definitely does. It makes a lot of sense, everything you just said.
So now tell me a little bit about how your daughter right now is sort of playing into the family dynamic. So I know that you said that your father takes care of your daughter.
Well, yeah,
and some, helps
both,
out, and
my mom does a lot
Mhm.
more probably, but I just meant it in terms of, like, perspective. Like, he spends way more time, like, with her alone, or will, like,
Mhm.
take her off my hands for a while. But, like, when's the last time he ever, like, asked me to go do anything, or, like, wanted to spend time with just me, or me and my daughter, you know what I mean? It's like, almost feels like he values her more than me.
Well, and now can you recall a time where you asked him, or did you ever express that to him?
No. Mm-mm.
And do you know how you would go about doing that? If that's something that you wanted, if you, because from what I'm hearing is that, I'm hearing that you do want some sort of, you want a better relationship, is that accurate?
Yeah, I would like that.
And what would that look like? Your ideal relationship. So if you woke up, tomorrow morning and you and your father had this brand new relationship where everything was perfect, what would that look like?
Let's see. I guess my dad would be more interested in me and in my life. He'd be excited about getting me off to college. I haven't even told him yet because I'm afraid he's not going to be happy or like not going to be excited for me, and that would just crush me. But I guess also like he would not make me feel like he would be more affectionate with me and like call me the little nicknames he used to call me. He used to call me meatball. It's like the stupidest thing, but like,
That meant that
he doesn't do that anymore. He calls my daughter that. So it's just kind of hard. I feel like I'm just nothing to him now. So I guess feeling like, like the old days, I guess, like back before I was like a teenager, that he would be like wanting to spend time with me and like being sweet to me and caring about what I need and not just like, it almost feels like he's given up on me and put all his hopes into my other siblings and into my daughter.
That must be really difficult to feel as though a choice that you made is the result of your father sort of, seemingly, from your perspective.
Well, it wasn't a choice. I mean, getting pregnant wasn't a choice for me.
Okay.
But that's a whole other story. So yeah.
When was the last time that your father gave you a sense of encouragement? Or gave you some sort of validation, that something that made you feel good about yourself? A statement or an act or...
Probably like right after I had my daughter. He told me, he said, "You've always been good at anything you do, and I know you're going to be a good mom."
How did that feel, hearing that?
I was looped up on medication, so I barely remember it, like I do remember it obviously, but like it didn't make an impact at the time, but like now thinking about it, maybe I get some strength from that, but it's like I don't want to have just that one little thing to hold on to, It's not like he's mean to me or anything, he just doesn't care. It doesn't feel like he cares what's going on with me. Like I have to see my daughter's father every day at school. And it's really fucking scary. I don't like seeing him, for so many reasons. And like, I almost wish my dad would like protect me or...
Can you remember a time in your childhood or at some point in your adolescence in which you did feel that sense of protection?
Yeah. It's probably stupid. I hit puberty really early and I had like boobs when I was like 10 or 11. None of the girls in my class really had boobs yet, so this one time all the people, like, we were doing a little like play for like a classroom play, and the parents came in, and my dad had his like little video recorder, and he was standing there recording us getting ready. There's this bully, this mean kid, and we were like, we had rolls of tape that we were using to like make ourselves look like skeletons for the play, and I had picked up a roll of tape, and this kid reached for it at the same time, but I had it first, and he grabbed it and was trying to pull it out of my hands, and this kid bullied me a lot, and so I just didn't want to let it go, so I held on to it, and he punched me right in the boobs. Like, he literally took his other hand that he wasn't holding on with and punched me really hard right in the chest, and my dad like had it on video camera, and he just dropped the camera, like gave it to my mom, and ran after the kid and just literally grabbed him by the shirt and took him down to the principal's office and told the principal what happened. And he got the kid suspended, and you know, he told me that nobody deserves to be treated that way, and that kid's gonna grow up to be nothing, and that I'm gonna grow up to be strong. And he always made me feel protected when there were bullies, people who hurt me.
I think that's great that, you know, even though right now, it sounds like your goal right now is to work on your relationship with your father and sort of get back to a point in which you can be close again and communicate. But I mean, I think it's great that at one point that relationship did exist, and it sounds like, you know, there are ways that we can sort of get back to that, where I think that you can obtain a sense of validation that your father is still someone in your life whose role it is to protect you.
Yeah.
Regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that in your life right now that, like, who keeps you going? I mean, who encourages you, who motivates you, who sort of keeps you on track? Who's the one person that kind of sticks out when I ask that question? Sticks out in your mind?
You mean like an adult?
It could be really anybody.
Okay. Well, like, I mean, my daughter, obviously, because I don't have the option to not make something of myself at this point. I mean, I have to be a good parent and a good role model,
and now tell me, that's a compelling statement right there. When you say I have to, you know, I have to be a good role model, I have to do what I have to do. Why? Tell me a little bit more about that. What does that really mean?
Well, I didn't want to become a parent this soon. I mean, Jesus, I'm only 17, you know, I'm going to be 18 in a couple months, and I didn't think I would have kids till I was like 30, you know, it's like ancient compared to right now, and everyone thinks teen moms are just sluts, or useless, or lazy, or like, everyone thinks the worst and has no expectations for us, and I face that like every day in some way, or almost every day. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, because I'm not, but it's a lot of like stereotypes, and I try really hard to not be that stereotype. Like I didn't have a choice that I got pregnant, and I felt like I didn't have a choice whether I wanted to have my child or not. I knew if I had an abortion, my parents would be really disappointed and upset. So I guess for me it's like, I can't just like feel sorry for myself for what happened, and I can't just like wallow, you know. I have to show my daughter that, like, despite, because she's gonna know someday, you know, that like she's gonna know why her father isn't a part of her life, and she's gonna know I can't keep everything from her. So I guess just the best I can do now is be an awesome mom, so that she doesn't feel like something's missing, you know, or so so that she can look up to me, you know, and be proud that I'm her mom.
That means a lot to you.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
And that sort of reminded me of what we talked about earlier. You were talking about how your brother looks up to you, and it just sounds like you being a figure for others to look up to and for others to try to emulate is an important part of your life. And what it sounds like to me is that that's something in itself that almost motivates you to keep going and to keep striving for success.
Yeah, definitely. It does.
Right. And it sounds like, we talked about, you brought up the word choice, and choice is a big, that's a big word for me, because I feel, from what you're saying, your choices were limited in this situation. You did not really have a choice in the situation that you were in. But from everything that you just told me, I mean, you were very, you went into a lot of detail about what you can do, and that's interesting to me, how you can now be sort of more in control of your choices.
Yeah.
And, it sounds like you definitely have all of the motivation and the drive to make good choices.
Mhm.
So what's next? What would you say is the most realistic approach, something that could be accomplished maybe within the next few days, the next couple of months, for you to maybe take the initiative to get to a place that you want to be in terms of the relationship with your parents?
I don't know, that's why I'm here, I'm like stuck. I'm just stuck, and I feel like I'm going to be going to college next year, and I want things to be different before I go, because once I'm out, I'm not coming back, I don't even know, I mean, obviously I'm going to have to stay at home, or stay close to home because of my daughter, but...
So it sounds like you want a sense of security.
Yeah.
Before you leave.
Yeah, I want to feel good about things before I go and try and create a life that's my own, not just like part of my parents.
And how would you maintain that security when you're away at school? Because it totally makes sense that you want to leave things with your parents in a very stable way. This could mean, I mean, give me an example of what that would look like, a component of a stable relationship. I mean, this could include, a realistic made-up scenario. Like, what would that look like? How would you know when you're sort of ready to leave, go to school? Okay, my relationship is secure, and I feel good about it.
I guess, like, my mom and dad, like, my mom's, like, we're fine, like, she knows a little more about what happened, like, how I got pregnant, and so she's pretty understanding about everything. My dad, not so much, so I guess what would look different would be that, I'd be able to tell him more about how I got pregnant, and so that he would understand why this has been so hard for me, and also that he wouldn't be so distant, and that, like, I would know, no matter what, that they're proud of me. To be able to see and feel like that they're proud, instead of just having to remind myself of years past, because that hurts. Yeah.
And now back to the question that I kind of touched upon a couple of minutes ago. What steps would you take to maintain that relationship? So if you were to secure the relationship, and if you were to be, experiencing a sense of understanding from your father's perspective, and everything was sort of ideal, but then you went to school and kind of started working on a new life, essentially. Not a new life away from them,
Yeah.
but started...
How to secure it, you mean, like...
How to maintain it. So what would you do to... Because it sounds like what I'm hearing is you want a sense of stability, a sense
Yeah.
of security before you leave, but all relationships, do require work and maintenance. So just from your perspective, what do you think that you could do to sort of continue that stability?
I guess communicate more with them, like keep those lines open, like make sure I'm telling them what's going on with my life and not like holding things back. Yeah.
I think so we just talked about communication, and so that I think that a great first step would be, because I know you said, one of the reasons why you're here is to sort of kind of find out what that next step would be. But from everything that you told me, you're very motivated to enhance this relationship and get it to that secure place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that a great first step would be to start with that communication. So I want to maybe try to have you meet with your parents this week before our next session, and I want you to simply just communicate, and it doesn't have to be you don't have to go too much into detail about what we talked about. I mean, even just a conversation, or maybe telling them something important about your day, just any kind of positive verbal exchange I want to see take place, and then you can let me know how that goes. Does that sound like something that you can accomplish?
Yeah, probably. I don't see why not.
Okay. And then for our next session, we can assess how that went, and then we can move on from there.
Yeah. I guess I'm just a little worried because, like, what if it doesn't work? Like, what if he doesn't want to have a better relationship? What if he's just done with me?
Well, from everything that you told me, it sounds as though, the fact that he's he's continuing to just sort of have a place in it, because even though you feel like he's not invested necessarily in your life, the fact that he's invested in your daughter's life, I think that is something that is marketable for you in a sense. So even if you're not feeling that closeness with him personally, the fact that he does seem invested in your daughter, I think that you could essentially use that to your advantage.
What do you mean? Like how?
I think that the idea that, because obviously your daughter is a part of you, would you consider her a part of you and a part of your identity? And
yeah.
Exactly. So I think that there is something there, and it might not be tangible or visible at the moment, but I'm thinking that, the fact that your father is making an effort to be a support system for your daughter,
yeah.
It is essentially a support system for you too, even if you're not feeling that personally between the two of you.
Yeah.
It's something to work off of, I think. I think that
So basically what you're saying is, like, because he supports my daughter, he supports me kind of by default a little bit.
Do you feel that way? Does that make sense to you?
I mean, yeah, ideally, like, it makes sense, like, in theory. I mean, he supports my daughter, so I know it means he loves me. But, like, supporting me is a whole different story. It's not the same, Like, I'm grateful that he supports
Mm-hmm.
my daughter, like, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't
Absolutely.
feel like he's supportive of me. So I guess, while I feel like it's related, like, I can see your point, I just don't really, I don't want to say disagree, because I don't, but, like, I guess I just feel like supporting me, like, verbally is important too, and he doesn't do that, and taking care of my daughter doesn't really replace that for me.
Right. Oh, and yeah, and it's not to say that it's a replacement, and it's not to say that, you're expected to settle just for,
Yeah.
you're not expected to look at the relationship that he has with your daughter and think that is a substitute, or that's an alternative.
Yeah.
So that's definitely not the place that I'm coming from. But what I would say, going back to how I suggested sort of your homework assignment for our next session is communication.
Okay.
So I want you to see how it goes in terms of communicating to your father, what some of your feelings are, and then
Okay.
based on his response, we can assess that for our next session.
Okay, great. All right,
Okay,
thanks.
very nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.